It's like Ford versus Holden or Coke versus Pepsi. The fans of Apple's iOS or Google's Android smartphone operating systems will scream from the rooftops about how their phones and operating systems are better. For the rest of us though, it can get a little confusing working out the best match for your needs. So here's what you need to consider when picking a new smartphone if the choice is between iOS and Android. Features. All of Apple's iPhones run on Apple's own iOS operating system. It's only available to iPhones and it's updated annually, although after around 3 to 4 years, older iPhones stop getting updates. Android operating system is offered by Google to every smartphone maker, except for Apple of course, and it's a much more open platform. Software upgrades are written by Google and released annually, along with regular security updates, but some makers are better than others at actually updating their phones to the latest version. Costs. All of Apple's newer iPhones sit at the top of the pricing ladder, and even older models attract a serious premium price. There's no such thing as a cheap iPhone, and even the older model Apple still starts at $749 outright. The most expensive model currently sold by Apple weighs in at a wallet-busting $2,369. Android phones, on the other hand, can vary from $2,000 plus all the way down to sub-$100 models. There's a huge variety of screen sizes, camera features, and designs to choose from, depending on your budget. Handsets. With Apple, your choice is simple because there's only a few handsets each year. Apple phones also tend to keep their value over time much longer than comparable Android handsets. With Android, you get a much wider choice of price points, screen sizes, and features, so there's a little something for every budget. However, the intense competition between Android handset makers means that they tend to lose their value quickly when it's time to resell them. Apps. For most purposes, it's almost a draw these days in terms of covering the vital functions you want from a smartphone. Apple has some advantages if you've got an iPad because iOS apps scale up naturally onto the iPad. You can get Android tablets, but the way apps work on these can be a little bit unpredictable. Where Android scores all over iOS is on the apps front in terms of flexibility of choice. If you don't like Apple's Maps, email, or web browser on iOS, you're stuck with them as a default. If you don't like it on Android, you can install a different one and set it as a default for the whole phone with ease. Also, if you're switching from iOS to Android, remember to turn off your iMessage. Otherwise, you could be receiving iMessages for months and people will have no idea that you're not receiving them. Storage. Apple sells iPhones in a wide variety of storage configurations, but there's no official way to expand the storage on an existing iPhone. Run out of space and you'll have to pay for more iCloud storage or buy a completely brand new iPhone. Most but not all Android phones support storage expansion, so even though some budget Android phones have small onboard storage space, it's pretty easy and affordable to expand it if you're taking lots of photos or want lots of onboard music or video storage space. Interface. There's a lot of personal choice at play here. Apple likes to keep things simple and controlled, and that definitely has appeal, as long as you're happy with Apple's way of doing things on a smartphone. Android is a lot more loose in its control of the interface, but this can mean differences between different Android makers and their underlying interfaces. That can lead to an all-new learning curve when you buy a new phone. Android's interface, though, is a lot more customizable, so if you don't like what you get out of the box, you can modify it to meet your own particular desires. Security and privacy. Apple keeps iOS as a tightly controlled environment with yearly updates to iOS delivered straight from Apple itself. If you've got an older iPhone, however, you'll be eventually cut off from iOS updates and the security patches that keep your iPhone secure. It's a very mixed affair on the Android side of security and privacy fence. Google itself releases annual full software updates to Android, along with regular security updates, but not every phone gets these in a timely manner. Google's own Pixel phones do, and phones in the Android One scheme should, but for other manufacturers, there can be a significant wait for new Android updates, if you get them at all. So what's the verdict? Apple makes no secret of its desire to be seen as a premium brand, and that's the position of the iPhone. In a market where you can get a cheap smartphone, an iPhone is something of a luxury buy. It's also well suited to folks who don't want to tinker with their existing phone that much and are happy with the wider Apple ecosystem. Android works very well for the techie types, but some selected models do a pretty good job of being easy to operate for the less technically inclined. Android phones are your only choice on a budget, but they're also currently your best choice if you're super keen on photography, with the best premium Android models outpacing what Apple's doing with its iPhone cameras. So which team are you on, Android or iOS? If you still need more information to decide, we're constantly reviewing and comparing the entire field of phones available now at Finder. Whether it's the best premium phones or your best options if you're working to a strict budget, hop on the link below to check out all the details.
Finder.com.au